You were picking one thing to do for your immune system besides not live in fear, which is the biggest thing that will crash your immune system. You want to have a messed up immune system, be afraid.
Yes.
So release the fear, get good sleep. Don't eat read the sugar impact diet, get the sugar out. But vitamin D, I keep thinking, Serena, what would have happened if when all of this started, if instead of all this stuff we did, we just said, okay, everyone is going to get vitamin D, vitamin C, zinc, and quercetin. Where would we have been? I was live online pinging you going, where the heck are you?
I've been talking about you for 20 minutes.
Oh my gosh. I don't know what you could possibly talk about for 20 minutes.
Well, I mean, first of all, you're a total badass. And so thank you so much. And I was just telling everyone how amazing you are, how you are truly, you're a mentor to me. You're a mentor to so many. You are a true thought leader and visionary in this space. And when it comes to you, and I could spend 2 hours just talking about all the things you've done and all the accolades, but I was just talking about what a badass you are, how much you've served me and our community, and how I'm excited that you can now talk to us today just about a little bit about you for those who don't know you yet, and then just what the future of personal health looks like, because you've watched the wellness industry shift. I mean, you're a visionary. You're a pioneer.
Industry. So Serena, literally, there was no wellness industry when I got started.
Exactly.
There wasn't one. So I'm gonna put my earpods in too. I just realized I didn't.
Yeah, that's the thing. You are a pioneer. You have been there from the beginning. I feel like you've been part of what's created the industry that we have now. So, and by the way, I sent you a whole bunch of DMs. I don't know if you got it. So after this, go back and read it. It's paragraphs.
You sent me a novel in DMs. Yes, I guess I'm an OG here. I'm most excited about what's coming next. And because I feel like it's been a circuitous road to come to the point where we all need to take personal responsibility for our health. And I think that's really what this past year has shown us is, it is our time to realize that we need to be our nutritionist. We need to be our doctor. We need to, and there's going to be great information out there, but ultimately you've got to gather that information and make the decision that's right for you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I'm writing a book. I always say I'm writing my last book, Serena. I'm writing my last book. Yeah, you know how that goes. But I'm writing a book that's going to be published on the anniversary of the Virgin Diet. So November 2022, I'm going to publish a book. I can't tell the title yet. It's such a great title, but I can't say it yet. But it's around the Virgin Diet. I know it's so hard for me because I'm such a blurter. I'm good at keeping secrets, but I also love to, once I figure something out, I'm like blah 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 blah. But it really is around this whole idea, and it's something that I've been talking about, but I don't think that I've been bold enough with it. Is that we are using diets all wrong.
Right.
If you're dieting all the time, this is ridiculous. A diet shouldn't be your hobby.
Right.
And a diet, we have a big problem in our vocabulary. And I think Eskimos have 32 words for snow, and we've got one. The problem is we've got one word for diet and we need two. There's diet, and this is the way I think of it. It is something that you do short term. You do it to learn something about yourself. You take that knowledge or that result and you go, all right, what of that needs to come back into my everyday life? And so in that everyday life, that eating plan, that meal plan, that needs another word, not diet, because we shouldn't be on this diet forever. We should go through, clean up, reset. That's where detoxes are great.
Right.
Find that new normal, then check in and go, all right, what is working here? Because you know, you might hear how kale is amazing and you eat it and it just absolutely tanks you. So it's not amazing for you. And that really is figuring out the foods that you love that love you. Because, you know, you may love tiramisu. I can pretty much guarantee you it's not loving you back. You know, it just is not going to, right? Sadly enough, I always say if I could make the real diet rules, it would be that, you know, wine and ice cream and sourdough bread would be like the best, like, anti-aging foods ever.
Can we just throw pasta in there too if you're ever gonna make the real diet?
Hey, have you tried Kite Hill brand? Now, you can't do it if you are an egg intolerant, but if you're not egg intolerant, Kite Hill makes this almond flour pasta. And my son, who is an incredible chef, he's a mathematician, and, you know, a mathematician it's a lot of, like, that's perfect for if you want to be a chef. Same with being a chemist. So he makes us this dairy-free, gluten-free lasagna with these Kite Hill lasagna noodles and Kite Hill almond ricotta. And it is the most amazing. We always say, make extra so we'll have leftovers. And it just never happens, like never. So that's the cool thing. When I first wrote The Virgin Diet 9 years ago, there were not a lot of great swaps. There were not a lot of great options.
So easy now.
Right? It's so easy. Now, that doesn't mean fall prey to all the gluten-free junk food out there. Like, I remember when I first started this, people were like, I'm eating gluten-free cookies. Is that great? I'm like, no, that's not great. Like, knock it off. But it does mean that there are so many easier ways, like all the different nut milks and nut cheeses and different types of gluten-free products out there. It makes life a lot easier.
Yeah, and I just noticed someone's like, I have celiac. That sounds amazing. As you know, JJ, I'm a chef too. I'm classically trained, and my sister actually has celiac, and I'm plant-based. And so I do gluten-free vegan pasta at least once a week here. But I use a mixture. There's almond flour, also cassava flour, something that I love to use as well. So you're so right. There's so many options now that make it so easy.
And lentil pasta. I was just I went to a Dr. Joe Dispenza advanced meditation retreat last week.
Oh, amazing. I love Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Who does not love Dr. Joe Dispenza?
Amazing.
So, I'm going back in June to Cancun. I'm like beyond excited. Anyway, at the hotel with the meals, one of the meals they actually served red lentil pasta. And I go, I'm so impressed. Usually, like when I have my events, we do all that. We educate the chefs. I literally bring in my cookbooks to show them what to do. And it's part of our hotel contracts. And I'm sure they're like, oh my gosh, please. But I was pretty impressed that is how mainstream this is now, that you can go to these like big hotel chains and they actually have these things.
It's wonderful. And it was interesting that you bring that up, because I was just saying to my sister that the menus have all shifted. You know, there are some places here in LA that's not necessarily plant-based and not like a health-focused type of restaurant, let's say Matthew Kinney or something. Another place, San Vicente, and they had changed their diet. I mean, their menus now, half the menu has vegan, gluten-free, and vegetarian options where you're not.
Wow.
It's part of the menu. And
it's not like the weird side menu.
Yeah.
Like, here, you get the crappy menu over here.
Yeah, and it's not like there's an asterisk that says can be gluten-free. It's like it's built into the menu. And of course we're here in LA, so we're really fortunate.
You would expect LA. Well, I live in Tampa now, and the food here is unbelievable. And when we moved here 2 years ago, that was one of the first things. Like, if I don't have access to Whole Foods and all that in the farmers markets, I'm like, I'm not in. And I was shocked at the restaurants here and how great it is. I will tell you, when you're saying that, it reminded me, I think it was about 11 years ago, I was at a big mastermind event, and one of the gals in our mastermind was raw vegan. And I remember it was us all sitting down for lunch, like getting these amazing lunches, and she got, and I was like looking at her going, I don't know what you can do with that. She got this plate, and it had a cup of carrot and celery sticks, and then it had some strawberries.
Yeah.
And I'm like, have fun. You know?
I know, and thank goodness it's changed so much. And, you know, obviously we're here in LA, and just in the States, we have a lot of options. When I was in Europe, and Europe is better now too, but I remember when I was in Switzerland. I was in Geneva for a conference where I was speaking at, and I telling them that I can't have dairy in Switzerland and telling them that I'm plant-based. I mean, literally they'd be like, oh, okay. And so then they would give me a big plate of steamed vegetables with like butter on it or something, like not like, putting two together. So yeah, I mean, and I think that since we're talking about the future of personal health, it's so important to remind people that you can take charge of your health, and we now have so many ways that we can do that. It's much easier now to really create things in your own kitchen and to do it yourself, even if you
and even to get lab tests and stuff, like you can order lab tests online, and you don't have to go through and go to the doctor and do all that stuff for some of the basic things that we should know, like vitamin D. Like that should just be part of what you do every 6 months, is test your vitamin D levels, especially if you live in any kind of variable weather. I tend to like go wherever the sun is all year round. So, but even with that, I have to take 10,000 IUs of vitamin D to stay in my optimal range. And
Me too.
Right?
I take 14, actually. It's interesting. I take 14. And that's such a good reminder too, JJ, just to let people know, because I've been running labs for my clients and having them ordered through their doctors for a long time. But there's Everlywell, I mean, there's MyViome, there's so many of these companies now that you can get labs that are even beyond the basic. You know, you can test your gut, you can test your inflammation levels, you can test vitamin D, you can test for metals. I mean, there's so many companies out there now where it's an out-of-pocket expense, not covered by insurance, but you at least have access. Right?
Yeah, and they're actually cheaper than, I mean, back when I was doing this, I would run labs through some of my doctor friends, because a lot of these labs were just so not something you typically find, everything from adrenals to food sensitivity. I mean, food sensitivity, I used to teach doctors how to interpret that. That's where the Virgin diet came from. But, and it was expensive, but now it's gotten so much better. So that's super exciting. And that's like a big shout out. And I'm sure everybody listening here is in the know on this. But in case you're not in the know, like if I were going to look at the most important things to do right now, vitamin D is at the top of the list. So important.
And I'm glad you're reminding people of that. It's and I think people know it, but hearing it from you is just, I think that resonates and sticks in their head more. And I just want to take a moment to acknowledge we have over 800 people on right now, and a lot of you guys hung in with me as we were trying to figure out the
I'm
line.
sorry.
But no, it's not you. It's just both of us. We just miscommunicated. No big deal at all. But thank you guys for hanging in, because now you can, now you're meeting JJ. And at the very bottom here, I've pinned a comment about our topic and also JJ's Instagram account. So if you don't already follow her, make sure you go, because she is such a wealth of information and my go-to for a lot of questions that I may have. And so just wanted to acknowledge the audience and also JJ for being here. So we have some questions would you mind if I just like threw some out at you?
Throw them out. Let's do them.
Okay. So a lot about, so shout outs about your book. People want to know about vitamin D and vitamin K. So I think that's a great question.
I'm so glad that you have such a smart audience, because most people are not aware of that and how important it is to take D3 with K1 and 2. And granted, yes, you probably will get enough from your diet, but that's not one to monkey with. So you always want to take vitamin D3, and it's vitamin D3. Now, this is the challenge, because that typically is not a vegan thing. If this is the one thing, if you are plant-based, I would say, like, if you are plant-based, okay, you can get fish oil, you can get your omega-3s from algae and avoid the fish, but D is just a challenge. I know that they were working on some from mushrooms. But if we could just maybe do that one, that would be the one I kind of push for. So vitamin D3 with K1 and 2 is really important, because vitamin D, as we know, we're supposed to make it from the sun. Well, the challenge is not only are we wearing sunscreen, but I was just listening to someone recently, and it's like there's only certain times of the day that you're really going to get the sun rays that you need that will make the vitamin D. I'm like, well, what are the chances that we're actually out in that time.
Yeah.
And if you're wearing sunscreen, that one's done. So it's just, it's a hard variable to control. So for most of us, we're going to need somewhere between 5 and 10,000 IUs. As you just said, you take more than that. And the way that you do this is you get a 25 hydroxy vitamin D test. So that is the name of the test. And ideally, you know, if you're going to see your doctor, they're running it for you, but you can get these now online. You just mentioned some of the different lab tests. I'm blanking on the one. I do one with Dr. Alan Hopkins. I just can't remember the name of it right now. It's like Lab Tests Online or something. So there's a couple of these different companies, easy to order. And then you want to really establish where do I need to be? I know for me, I need to do 10,000 IUs daily. Now, here's something interesting about vitamin D, as opposed to the water solubles. This is a fat soluble vitamin, which means that it stores. So you could actually do a once a week dose of vitamin D with K1 and 2, because those are all fat soluble vitamins, instead of taking it every day. It's whatever works best for you, but you do need to be consistent with whatever that is. And depending on where you live, like if you live in Minnesota, you will probably need more in the winter and less in the summer. I live in Florida, and then I spend the summers out on the West Coast. So I'm kind of the same all year round.
Yeah.
I do not do well in cold or dark. I have to be in like, I just can't do it. I get seasonal affective disorder. I just don't like it. So that's the vitamin D. And why is vitamin D so important? It really is not a vitamin. It's a pro-hormone, and it sits on top of the whole hormone cascade. It does a whole lot of stuff. But one of the most important things that it does, and what's been really interesting in COVID, is what it does for your immune system. It really is super critical for your immune system. You were picking one thing to do for your immune system besides not live in fear, which is the biggest thing that will crash your immune system. You want to have a messed up immune system, be afraid.
Yes.
So release the fear, get good sleep. Don't eat read the sugar impact diet, get the sugar out. But vitamin D, I keep thinking, Serena, what would have happened if, when all of this started, if instead of all this stuff we did, we just said, okay, everyone is going to get vitamin D, vitamin C, zinc, and quercetin. Like, where would we have been? You know, if we just did those basic things that are so inexpensive. And so Dr. Joe Mercola did a paper on this where he looked at the levels of vitamin D and the severity of COVID and death. And I mean, complete correlation between lower D, higher rates of symptoms, and, you know, death. So super critical. And when we say this, that's not just COVID. That's everything. And besides that, you know, it also is important for brain health, for gut health, for bone health. You know, it's like it just go down the line. Yes.
For everything. And thank you so much for sharing that. And I think that we've had, and it was in-depth, it was an in-depth answer, which I think is really helpful, because a lot of people here take notes. And for those of you guys that don't already know, we always record these replays. We clean up the audio and video. We make sure we have the subtitles, and then we launch them on our YouTube and Facebook and everywhere. So I know you're rapidly scribbling notes. Don't worry, you'll be able to hear this again in a few days. We did have some questions about vitamin A, actually, with the D and the K, and I'm not sure if you have time to address that, because I know we're coming close on time. And then,
so yeah, what I do honestly is I think where we start is this: you start with a really good multivitamin mineral formula. Step one. And when I say that, this is not go find the 1-a-day chewable gummy. Like this is not what I'm talking about. Like, buy a high quality supplement that's got good bioavailable ingredients. And this is where it's great to get one that's recommended by your nutritionist or your doctor. And the things to avoid if you do have, if you are a postmenopausal woman, don't have iron in it. And if you are a man, and if you have any thyroid issues, don't have iodine. I just don't think you should have the iodine added in there anyway. And really check. One of the key ways I can tell if a product is good or not is if it has folic acid in it. If it has folic acid in it, run far, far away. Same with if it has, even now, I don't do D-alpha tocopherol. I have switched over to altocotrienol. So these are just things that we've been learning that are important. But like, one of the key things I can tell is, like, this is a crappy thing run is with it's got folic acid, which is a synthetic form of folate that can actually cause a lot of problems. So I think you start with that, with all of your levels. And then you add to it. I usually find that if you have a good solid multivitamin and you're taking essential fatty acids, probably the only thing you're gonna have to push up is the D.
Yeah.
In terms of your and C. I mean, C I like to dose higher separately because depending on your level of stress, your adrenal glands, when they're under stress, use more C. Yeah. And so I like to push it. You know, if you get sick, you want to take more C. So I'll push C a little bit based on what's going on.
That's great. Thank you. And that answered several questions that came up just about maybe 3 to 5.
Right on.
Yeah, 3 to 5 like supplements that you recommended. And Gigi, I don't, since you didn't read the DMs, you don't know, like we actually have our supplements. My supplements are going to be finally launching.
Yay!
I'm so excited. So it will actually cover some of the things we've talked about. We definitely
awesome.
So I'm so excited.
Very cool.
That's finally happening. So how good are you on time? Because I know it was a 10 to 10:30. We jumped on a little bit late.
I'm okay. I've got one, but it's not for a couple more minutes, and I know I blew it. So
No.
I was over on mine going, "Hey, Serena's coming."
I'm so sorry. It was but you know what? We're here. So and it's funny because some people had gone to yours and it's like, JJ's live on hers waiting for you. And I was like, oh, okay, how do we do this? So funny. So we had some other questions about, we had obviously questions about omegas. And that's another really key component, I think, if we're talking basics. And so we'd love, yes, I'm having my own thing.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Let me roll through what I think are the super basics. So, because I think we always want to go to, people are always like, what do I use for energy, for fat burning? I go, look, can we just start and start first with this idea? It's called a supplement.
Yeah.
And it's called a supplement for a reason. It supplements your good diet. So don't ever think, even though honestly there was, Serena, and I'm saying this, but there was actually a study where they had people eat McDonald's and they showed how they could use supplements to offset some of the problems. I go, but like, why do that? So let's start with a good diet where you're getting in, clean protein, healthy, low anti-inflammatory fats.
Yeah.
And loads of fiber from lots of non-starchy vegetables, a little bit of low sugar impact carbs. Okay, so that's the basics. And we're not eating all day long. We're practicing good intermittent fasting. We've got a lot of fluids. Step one. And we've got good gut health so that we can actually absorb our nutrients. And we're being mindful when we eat.
Yep.
Then a good high quality multivitamin, mineral, antioxidant formula. So, and again, it's really knowing the quality of this. This is not I'm going to go to find the cheapest deal on the shelf. Yeah. I would rather you take less of something super high quality because bioavailability is everything. It's got to get into your cells. Important note here, because this is one that drives me crazy is, yeah, your urine might be a little bit neon. That's B vitamins. That's how we metabolize them. That is not, I'm peeing everything out. That
Yes.
So, right? So
yes, I'm so glad you pointed that out. I get that also. My pee smell, it's so yellow, it's fine. Yeah.
Now here's a couple things with that. Minerals are big.
Yeah.
And especially magnesium. One of the things that we tend to be deficient in is magnesium. It's a big mineral. You're not going to get enough in a multi, whether it's 2 a day or 4 a day or 6 a day. You're probably going to need to take some extra magnesium.
Yes.
Probably not any of the other ones, but magnesium is one that you'll want to do. You'll probably need to push your vitamin D because they'll have a basic level. They'll have anywhere from 400 IUs to 2,000 IUs. I find that most people are needing more around 10,000 IUs, and kind of a minimal dose is 5,000. But, when you look at these multis, they're going to try to hit, the lowest common denominator, not the outlier. So vitamin D with some K, that's the next one. So basic multivitamin, mineral, antioxidant formula, extra magnesium. I like to take that at night, super calming, helps you sleep.
Yep.
And you kind of can tell how much you should take, because if you take too much, you will know that you took too much, because your intestines will say rah, and you'll probably have blue stools. So that's a sign you took too much. And then, so it's a D, magnesium, the multi essential fatty acids. Now, I really think that fish oil to me is the gold standard here. If you're a vegan, then you're going to get an algae-based product. If you'll do the fish oil, great. I really like it where it has some lipase in it. I find that two things that people have challenges with are protein and fat digestion, especially with their any kind of stress at all. And so lipase is great. And you also want to make sure that your fish oil is super clean, been processed well. So this form called triglyceride form, it's going to be the best available. That's been tested for heavy metals and oxidation, and that it also has antioxidants in it, because one of the things with omega-3s is they're very easy to burn, to oxidize. Yeah. And if they've oxidized, now you are making a good thing bad. Omega-3s are super important for a variety of things. Number one, your mood. I mean, it's one of the most important things you can do for depression, for mood, for anxiety, for ADD, for focus. So mood is super important. Inflammation, it's super important. Bone remodeling, it's incredible. It helps bone remodeling. It helps with hormone receptor sensitivity. So one of the things that can happen is you start to get, say, insulin receptor, insulin resistance. You can get ghrelin resistance. This actually helps keep your hormone receptors more sensitive to the message of the hormones. And it can help lower triglycerides. So that's another important one. So, I mean, like, there's so many great things that fish oils do. My standard dose on those, unless you're eating fish like 5 times a week, which is like nobody. And by the way, you got to make sure you're eating clean fish. I get all my fish from Vital Choice because I trust Randy Hartnell. He's got great stuff. And I eat salmon. I eat this only tuna I will eat is this stuff called Ventruska tuna, which actually has like some crazy amount of omega-3s. I think it's like 8 grams of omega-3s in the little can. But it's a small tuna belly, so it's not going to have the mercury and stuff. So I'll do halibut, scallops, and salmon. So I'm really careful about the fish I eat and where it comes from. But most people I find do better with about 2 grams of fish oil. And here's what's interesting with it. So I have a son, as you know, who when he was 16 got hit by a car, was in a coma for weeks, severe traumatic brain injury. And I think, and you can never go back and do this twice, thank God. But I know that one of the ways he was able to make it through this, where the doctors were telling us to let him die and that he'd never wake up, he'd never talk, he'd never blah, 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 which, he's doing all today, is that he was on 5 grams of fish oil because of some stuff going on. And that it was neuroprotective, because one of the things with fish oil is it protects your brain, and we never know when we're going to hit our head. It's not like most people aren't going to go, today I'm going to go hit my head. Maybe I'll get if someone will hit me and boom, I'll do that. So it's super important to make sure that you've got that on board to protect your brain. It's very neuroprotective. So fish oil is a definite one. If I had to go the next 2 out, it would be enzymes. And I like to take enzymes. They help break some of the allergenic proteins. So if you are eating out, some dairy or gluten or soy sneaks in and you don't have celiac, but you do react to these, I know I do, it can help protect you from the impact. It can help break down proteins, because it's the proteins that you're reacting to, and then it helps break down fats. The thing we don't really need, like we do pretty well breaking down carbs. If you take enzyme just solely to break down carbs, you'll have a bigger blood sugar response. So that's not really what you want. So digestive enzymes. And then the other one would be probiotics. Yeah. With a caution there. And it really depends on where your gut is. And there's, if you're still in a big active small intestinal bacterial overgrowth and you do probiotics, sometimes it makes you more bloated. It feeds them. So you have to go through a process first. So that can be its own test to see how you feel. 100%. I remember I had this one client and I gave her probiotics. She walks back and she literally looked like she was, 9 months pregnant. I'm like, whoa. And it's like, I didn't know then what I know now. That was like 15 years ago. And now I'm like, oops, SIBO. We didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah. So, we're always learning. So.
Yes. So that's a good test. And that brings me back to, your body better than anybody else. And so, but you've got to get it kind of to its normal to be able to tell what's going on and then really pay attention. That's where, like, when I start a program, after I have someone really put themselves into their future health, into their future self, and where do I want to be, and what does that look like, and how does that feel, and really see themselves there, because everything's created twice, first in your mind. So you have to really see yourself there to believe that you can do that and really know that you're worthy of that. So that's like step one, because without that, none of stuff's going to work, because there's no shortage of strategies, right? So mindset piece has to be there. And then really taking the time to start to record where you're at, weigh in every day to give you the information, not an emotional beating up or anything else. I think we've got to get away from how we look at the scale. To me, a scale's like a continuous glucose monitor, to a sleep score, to whatever else. It's information to tell you what is going on with your body. It is not telling you you're good or bad. Right. It's not being mean. You know, we should have a scale that says you were beautiful today, and today your weight is this.
It's just data. It's all data.
That's all it is. It's information. And so then you really clear out all the potential things that could be problematic. You let your body calm down. You reset. You're kind to yourself. You make sure you're doing your self-care. At that point that you've done that, which is like 3 to 4 weeks, then you can go back and start to go, how do I feel if I eat gluten? And Serena, I'm like trying to think of how many people I've worked with in all of these years who feel better eating gluten. It's like almost nobody. So
100% agree.
Right? I mean,
I mean, some of them can travel and they can have a little bit of gluten when they're, say, in Europe. It's so different than what we have here.
It's totally different. I can eat gluten in Europe. But.
It's totally different. But, beyond that, like I would say, and dairy too, a lot of my clients, especially after a certain age, like once we take them off of dairy, it's a game changer for them. That's not for everybody. But for a lot
dairy can do some crazy stuff with insulin resistance. So, I mean, if you're trying to lose body fat, and especially belly fat, dairy is not your friend. And I know you'll read the French diet, and I go, but that's in France.
Yes.
And that's an entirely different situation. And not just in that the dairy is different there and the cows are different there, but the lifestyle is different there.
Completely.
The stress levels are different there. Like everything is different. So you cannot like pull one piece out because you really want your cheese and go, anyway. All right. Now I have to jam and go down and do this other meeting. I am so sorry I was late again. Sorry.
It's okay. Sorry. We got you here. We got you for 30 minutes. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you. As you know, I absolutely adore you and just so grateful.
Well, I have a whole altar in my bedroom of all the cool stuff that you've sent me. Literally, I put a cute tray, all the stuff. It's so amazing. So thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
You're so sweet.
Are you in Tampa right now? Oops, sorry. You're in Tampa right now, right?
I am in Tampa right now.
Okay, I just spilled that to like 800 people. Sorry, I blurred it. But I'm just double checking because I have something that it's going out to today. So I just want to make sure it's going to Tampa.
No, I am in Tampa. I'm heading out to the West Coast July 2nd.
Oh, good. So hopefully I'll get to see you when you're out here.
Yes.
But in the meantime, I'll message you. Thank you so much. And
thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. All right. Bye, you guys. Thank you for staying on. Talk to you guys soon.